What if the greatest war stories ever told didn't just unfold on the battlefield, but on screen? Some of the most powerful, high-stakes dramas in cinema history weren't born from Western shootouts or sci-fi sagas, but from true events that shook the world. While legends like John Wayne built their legacy in the dust and grit of cowboy epics, his highest-grossing triumph came from an unexpected place, a World War II epic. Let's dive in. The Bridge on the River Quai, 1957. When audiences sat down to watch The Bridge on the River Quai in 1957, they were not simply witnessing a war film. They were experiencing a sweeping psychological drama set against the harsh backdrop of the Burmese jungle. Directed by David Lean and anchored by Alec Guinness's Academy Award-winning performance, the film tells the story of British prisoners of war tasked by their Japanese captors to build a vital bridge for enemy trains. But what elevates this story beyond standard wartime fare is its haunting meditation on pride, duty, and obsession. Colonel Nicholson, played with stern resolve by Guinness, becomes consumed by the idea of proving British superiority, not through violence, but through construction. As he cooperates more closely with the Japanese command, his motives grow increasingly murky. Is he resisting or aiding the enemy? That central question simmers until the final explosive act. William Holden also stars as an American who escapes the camp, only to be sent back on a mission to destroy the very bridge Nicholson has proudly erected. The result is a deeply ironic climax that asks the viewer to reconsider the cost of victory, the blindness of ego, and the meaning of sacrifice. The film was a massive box office success and won 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. Its signature whistled tune, the Colonel Bogey March, became iconic. More than just a film about prisoners and captors, The Bridge on the River Quai remains one of cinema's greatest reflections on the conflicting codes of war and the fragile line between honor and madness. The Great Escape, 1963. Few war films have captured the imagination like The Great Escape. Released in 1963 and based on a true story, this is not merely a film about escape, but about determination, unity, and the unyielding desire for freedom. Directed by John Sturges and set in a German prisoner of war camp during World War II, the film tells the story of Allied airmen plotting a massive breakout from what was considered an escape-proof prison. The ensemble cast reads like a roll call of iconic stars: Steve McQueen, James Garner, Richard Attenborough, Charles Bronson, Donald Pleasance. Each character brings a distinct skill to the operation, from tunnel digging to document forging to map drawing. Together, they plan and execute one of the most ambitious breakouts ever attempted on screen. Steve McQueen's role as the Cooler King, known for his rebellious spirit and that legendary motorcycle chase, became the stuff of cinematic legend. It is one of the most memorable sequences in war film history, blending suspense, stunt work, and silent determination into one thrilling ride. But beyond the action, The Great Escape captures something deeper: the resilience of the human spirit when caged by cruelty. These men, all from different backgrounds and nations, are united not just by their uniforms, but by a shared refusal to surrender their freedom. The escape plan, which involved 3 tunnels codenamed Tom, Dick, and Harry, becomes a symbol of their collective will. While the film ends on a somber note, as many of the escapees are recaptured or killed, its tone is never defeated. It celebrates ingenuity, bravery, and camaraderie, even in the face of terrible odds. Audiences responded strongly, making it a hit worldwide, and its influence continues to echo in modern adventure and prison break films alike. The Great Escape is a rare mix of tension, charm, and poignancy that remains just as powerful today. The Dirty Dozen, 1967. In 1967, The Dirty Dozen exploded onto the screen with a concept as outrageous as it was bold: send a team of condemned military prisoners on a near-impossible mission behind enemy lines. What made it resonate so strongly with audiences wasn't just the audacity of the plot, but the gritty electric chemistry of its cast. Led by Lee Marvin, the film brought together Charles Bronson, Jim Brown, John Cassavetes, Telly Savalas, and Donald Sutherland, men who looked like they'd lived through a war before the cameras even started rolling. Marvin plays Major Reisman, a rebellious officer tasked with assembling a unit of criminals and misfits. These are men on death row or serving life sentences for crimes committed in uniform. The mission: infiltrate a Nazi-occupied French chateau on the eve of D-Day and eliminate as many high-ranking German officers as possible. The operation is dirty, dangerous, and unofficial. It's also their only shot at redemption. What follows is a chaotic blend of boot camp, infighting, and black humor as the group transforms from convicts into commandos. By the time they parachute into enemy territory, viewers are fully invested in their fate, even though the mission is a suicide run from the start. The action is intense, the stakes are high, and the conclusion pulls no punches. The film was both a commercial and critical triumph. Its brutal, no-nonsense portrayal of war stood out in a decade increasingly skeptical of authority. At the same time, it offered up an anti-heroic vision of valor that contrasted with traditional war movies. These weren't clean-cut soldiers following orders. They were flawed, desperate men trying to do one thing right before time ran out. The Dirty Dozen became a cultural touchstone, spawning sequels and influencing everything from video games to modern war films. More than just a caper and fatigues, it's a gripping look at men pushed to the edge and what happens when redemption is the only mission left. Von Ryan's Express, 1965. In Von Ryan's Express, Frank Sinatra trades his microphone for a military uniform and delivers a commanding performance in this gripping wartime thriller. Released in 1965, the film blends classic escape tropes with high-stakes train suspense. Sinatra plays Colonel Joseph Ryan, an American pilot shot down over Italy and sent to a prisoner of war camp filled with mostly British soldiers. At first, Ryan is met with resistance. His by-the-book attitude earns him the nickname Von Ryan, a mocking nod to perceived cowardice. But the story soon takes a sharp turn. After the Allied invasion of Italy, chaos reigns. The German guards, desperate to maintain control, prepare to transport the prisoners deeper into Axis territory. That's when Ryan seizes the moment. What follows is a daring escape, not by foot through the forest or under barbed wire, but aboard a commandeered German train. The POWs disguise themselves as German soldiers and embark on a perilous journey through Nazi-occupied territory, all while trying to stay one step ahead of the enemy. The film thrives on suspense. Every station stop, every signal, every German officer encountered along the way could unravel the entire mission. Sinatra brings both gravitas and unpredictability to the role. He's no invincible hero, but a man making choices under pressure. His transformation from reluctant leader to cunning escape artist is believable and compelling. Director Mark Robson stages the action with skill, using the confined setting of the train to ratchet up tension. There's a tangible sense of danger, amplified by the film's dramatic score and rugged locations across Spain, which stood in for wartime Italy. The final act, set against mountain terrain with enemy aircraft in pursuit, is one of the most thrilling sequences of its era. Von Ryan's Express was a commercial success and further cemented Sinatra's versatility as an actor. More importantly, it offered a fresh spin on the escape film genre. Rather than glorifying war, it focused on cunning, unity, and determination. It remains a standout among World War II dramas for its tight storytelling and relentless pace. The Guns of Navaron, 1961. When The Guns of Navaron premiered in 1961, it felt like a revelation. Audiences were swept away not just by its spectacle, but by its sense of purpose. This was more than a mission movie. It was a tense, character-driven odyssey featuring some of the finest performances of the era. Based on Alistair MacLean's novel and directed by J. Lee Thompson, the film follows a small Allied commando team tasked with destroying two massive German artillery guns positioned on a cliffside above the Aegean Sea. The cast alone was a reason to see it. Gregory Peck plays Captain Mallory, a stoic American mountaineer leading the team. David Niven is Miller, the cerebral explosives expert with a dry wit. And Anthony Quinn delivers one of his most memorable roles as Andrea, a passionate Greek resistance fighter whose personal code is as fierce as his fighting spirit. The mission is as daring as it is dangerous, with British troops trapped on a nearby island and the only escape route blocked by the German guns. Time is short. The team must infiltrate the heavily fortified island, scale treacherous cliffs, outsmart enemy patrols, and ultimately blow the guns sky high. What elevates the film is not just the action, though it is superb, but the moral complexity faced by each character. There are betrayals, sacrifices, and moments where loyalty is tested. The stakes are not only military, but personal. Tension simmers between Mallory and Andrea, driven by a past grievance. Miller's growing unease with the violence he is required to commit adds another layer of depth. Technically, the film was ahead of its time. The special effects, especially the climactic explosion, were groundbreaking. Dmitri Tiomkin's rousing score underscored every moment with grandeur. The Greek island setting added an exotic atmosphere, both beautiful and menacing. The Guns of Navaron became one of the highest-grossing films of the year and earned 7 Academy Award nominations, winning for Best Special Effects. It remains a masterclass in how to balance spectacle with character, reminding audiences that heroism is not about glory, but grit. Patton, 1970. If there's one film that captures the raw force of military leadership, it's Patton. Released in 1970 and directed by Franklin J. Schaffner, the film presents a complex and unflinching portrait of General George S. Patton, one of the most controversial figures in American military history. With George C. Scott in the lead role, the film doesn't just depict a man, it channels him in all his brilliance, contradiction, and fury. From the very first frame, with Patton standing before a massive American flag, delivering a thunderous speech to his troops, it's clear this is not a standard war movie. This is a character study on an epic scale. Patton is shown as a tactical genius and fierce patriot, but also as a man ruled by ego, superstition, and an unyielding belief in destiny. He sees himself not just as a general, but as a reincarnation of warriors from past centuries, destined for greatness. The film follows his campaigns across North Africa, Sicily, and into Nazi-occupied Europe. Along the way, Patton clashes with fellow generals, alienates allies, and wins battles through sheer audacity. The narrative doesn't shy away from his flaws. His slapping of a wounded soldier causes public outrage. His disregard for politics puts him at odds with higher command. Yet, despite all this, his ability to lead men into battle remains unmatched. Scott's performance is nothing short of transformative. He doesn't merely impersonate Patton, he inhabits him. His voice, posture, and expressions convey authority and unpredictability. The performance won him the Academy Award for Best Actor, though Scott famously declined the honor, believing no performance should be ranked above another. The cinematography captures the scope of war, from tank columns thundering across deserts to the intimate moments of Patton's self-reflection. Jerry Goldsmith's unforgettable score underscores both the glory and madness of war. The film walks a fine line. It neither glorifies nor condemns Patton, but lets the viewer decide. Patton was a critical and commercial success, earning 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director. It remains one of the finest war epics ever made, offering a nuanced look at a man whose victories on the battlefield were as legendary as the storms he left in his wake. A Bridge Too Far, 1777. When A Bridge Too Far debuted in 1977, it stood as one of the most ambitious war films ever produced. Directed by Richard Attenborough and based on Cornelius Ryan's nonfiction book, the film recreates the events of Operation Market Garden, an Allied attempt in 1944 to end World War II quickly by capturing key bridges in the Netherlands. But unlike most war films that celebrate success, A Bridge Too Far focuses on failure. It tells a story of miscalculation, overconfidence, and the terrible cost of war, all through the lens of a sprawling international cast. The ensemble is a who's who of cinema legends. Sean Connery, Michael Caine, Robert Redford, Gene Hackman, Laurence Olivier, James Caan, and Anthony Hopkins all appear. Each plays a real-life figure involved in the operation, from frontline paratroopers to high-ranking generals. Their performances reflect the complexity of their roles, not just warriors, but individuals trying to execute an uncertain plan with limited resources and shifting intelligence. The film's strength lies in its attention to detail. It depicts the logistics of airborne drops, the difficulties of moving tanks through narrow European roads, and the challenge of coordinating forces across multiple fronts. The action scenes are massive, realistic, and chaotic, showing the confusion that often defines battle. The failed attempt to capture the final bridge at Arnhem becomes the tragic centerpiece of the story, where Allied troops are surrounded and ultimately forced to retreat. Unlike triumphant war stories, A Bridge Too Far confronts the arrogance that can accompany wartime planning. Decisions are questioned. Soldiers on the ground pay the price for strategies devised far from the front lines. Attenborough never overdramatizes events. He lets the facts and consequences speak for themselves. The film ends not in celebration, but with quiet reflection. Though it was not a blockbuster in the American market, the film earned respect for its scale and honesty. It reminds viewers that not all battles are won, and not all losses are meaningless. A Bridge Too Far remains a landmark film about the consequences of leadership, the unpredictability of war, and the courage of those caught in the middle. Saving Private Ryan, 1998. Few films have redefined a genre like Saving Private Ryan. Released in 1998 and directed by Steven Spielberg, it ushered in a new era of realism in war cinema. From the opening minutes, an assault on Omaha Beach that shook audiences with its intensity, the film broke conventions. It didn't sanitize the battlefield. It didn't glorify conflict. Instead, it placed viewers directly into the chaos, fear, and sacrifice of World War II's most defining moments. The story follows Captain John Miller, played with quiet strength by Tom Hanks, who leads a small team behind enemy lines in search of one man, Private James Francis Ryan. Ryan's brothers have all been killed in action, and the mission is to bring him home. But the deeper Miller's squad pushes into enemy territory, the more the mission begins to weigh on them. Why should 8 men risk everything for one? What is the value of a single life in a world unraveling in bloodshed? Each member of the team brings a unique personality and skill to the mission. There's the sharpshooter, the medic, the interpreter. But more importantly, there's humanity. These aren't caricatures. They're soldiers, shaped by duty, trauma, and longing. Their conversations between skirmishes are as impactful as the firefights themselves. Spielberg allows space for silence, for doubt, for grief. The cinematography is gritty and immersive. Janusz Kaminski's use of desaturated color and handheld cameras places the audience in the trenches. The sound design captures the terrifying unpredictability of combat. Bullets whistle, shells explode, and commands are screamed over the din of destruction. The Normandy landing sequence alone has been studied by historians for its technical accuracy. At its heart, Saving Private Ryan is not about war, but about memory, about legacy. It ends where it begins, at a grave, as an old man asks if he's lived a life worthy of the sacrifices made for him. It's a question that lingers long after the credits roll. The film was a commercial and critical triumph, earning 5 Academy Awards and forever changing how war is portrayed on screen. More than a movie, Saving Private Ryan is a deeply human story about courage, loss, and the cost of freedom. Schindler's List, 1993. Schindler's List is not just a film, it's a historical document in cinematic form. Released in 1993, directed by Steven Spielberg, and based on the true story of Oskar Schindler, the film is a haunting portrayal of the Holocaust. Unlike traditional war epics focused on battlefield action, this is a film about morality, conscience, and one man's extraordinary transformation in the darkest of times. Liam Neeson plays Schindler, a wealthy and ambitious German businessman who arrives in Krakow to profit from the war. At first, he is detached from the suffering around him, focused only on wealth and influence. But as the realities of Nazi brutality unfold before his eyes, particularly the horrific treatment of Jews, something begins to shift. Schindler becomes driven not by profit, but by an urgent need to protect those he once saw as expendable. Ben Kingsley plays Itzhak Stern, Schindler's Jewish accountant, whose quiet intelligence and bravery help coordinate the rescue of over 1,100 Jewish workers. Ralph Fiennes delivers a chilling performance as Eamon Guth, the sadistic Nazi commandant, embodying the inhumanity of the regime with terrifying calmness. The film is shot almost entirely in black and white, giving it a timeless and documentary-like feel. The choice also underscores the moral starkness of the subject. But within this monochrome palette, Spielberg includes one unforgettable use of color: a girl in a red coat, a symbol of innocence lost amid genocide. Her presence becomes a turning point for Schindler, and a haunting visual metaphor for viewers. Schindler's List does not flinch from portraying the horrors of the Holocaust, ghettos, forced labor, executions, but it also shows the courage and resilience of those who resisted, survived, or helped. The final scenes, where real-life survivors lay stones on Schindler's grave, offer a powerful connection between history and the present. The film earned 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture and Best Director, and is widely regarded as one of the greatest films ever made. It is shown in schools, archived in museums, and remembered by those who value truth in storytelling. Schindler's List is more than a movie. It is a testimony. Released in 2017, the film recounts the evacuation of Allied soldiers from the beaches of Dunkirk, France. It's a film that doesn't explain war, it shows it, relentless, unpredictable, and deeply human. The Best Years of Our Lives, 1946. Released just a year after World War II ended, The Best Years of Our Lives struck a powerful chord with American audiences. Directed by William Wyler, the film explores what happens after the fighting ends, when soldiers return home and face the challenge of resuming civilian life. Unlike action-driven war films, this one is deeply personal, focusing on emotion, relationships, and reintegration. The story follows 3 veterans coming home to the same Midwestern town. Each represents a different branch of the military and a different social class. Fred Derry, played by Dana Andrews, was a bomber pilot. Now, back home, he finds it hard to find work and reconnect with his wife. Al Stevenson, portrayed by Frederick March, returns to his role as a banker, only to realize he sees the world differently than before. Then there is Homer Parrish, played by real-life veteran Harold Russell, who lost both his hands in the war and now wears prosthetic hooks. What makes The Best Years of Our Lives so impactful is its honesty. The film doesn't glamorize war or simplify the transition back to peace. Instead, it reveals the quiet struggles of those who served. There are scenes of awkward family dinners, silent stares at old uniforms, and long, difficult conversations with loved ones. It's a story of readjustment, of finding new purpose, and of facing the emotional scars that don't show on the surface. The inclusion of Harold Russell, a non-actor and actual double amputee, brought an authenticity rarely seen in films of the time. His storyline and his real-life presence was a testament to those who bore the physical cost of service. For his performance, he won not only the Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor, but also an honorary Oscar. The film was a major critical and commercial success, winning 7 Academy Awards, including Best Picture, Best Director, and Best Actor. Its message was clear. While wars may end on the battlefield, the impact continues long after the last shot is fired. The Best Years of Our Lives remains a timeless reminder of the real cost of service and the strength required to rebuild. The Dam Busters, 1955. The Dam Busters is one of Britain's most celebrated war films, telling the story of a daring and unconventional mission that captured the nation's imagination. Released in 1955 and directed by Michael Anderson, the film dramatizes the true exploits of the Royal Air Force's 617 Squadron and their attempt to destroy key German dams during World War II using an experimental bouncing bomb. At the heart of the story is Barnes Wallis, an engineer portrayed by Michael Redgrave. Wallis is no soldier, he's an inventor. Convinced that crippling German industry requires targeting its infrastructure, he develops a revolutionary bomb that can skip across water, bypass underwater defenses, and explode against dam walls. The challenge is immense. The bomb must be dropped at a precise altitude, speed, and distance, all under enemy fire. The film divides its narrative between Wallis's development process and the daring execution of Operation Chastise. Richard Todd plays Wing Commander Guy Gibson, the pilot who leads the mission. Gibson is calm under pressure, respected by his crew, and committed to the mission's success. The tension builds as the bombers fly low over enemy territory, navigating flak and searchlights to reach their targets. The actual dam raids are masterfully filmed. Miniatures and practical effects bring the destruction to life, especially for audiences in the 1950s. The roar of engines, the stillness of the reservoirs, and the moment of impact are all captured with thrilling precision. The mission was only partially successful, but the film treats it as a testament to innovation, courage, and the determination of ordinary men to do extraordinary things. The Dam Busters inspired not only filmmakers, but also future generations of military strategists and engineers. Its influence is evident in later films like Star Wars, where the trench run borrows directly from the film's bombing sequence. More than a technical marvel, the story is a tribute to collaboration between minds and muscles, invention and action. Though rooted in British military history, its message is universal. Success is never guaranteed, and sometimes the most important victories are those born from daring ideas and the bravery to carry them out. The Dam Busters remain a symbol of ingenuity and national pride. Battle of Britain, 1969. Battle of Britain is a film that honors one of the most crucial moments of World War II, the defense of the skies over England in 1940. Released in 1969 and directed by Guy Hamilton, the film is both a tribute to the Royal Air Force and a sweeping account of the air campaign that changed the tide of the war. While many war films focus on infantry or naval battles, this one turns its gaze upward, delivering a powerful chronicle of courage, sacrifice, and endurance in the face of overwhelming odds. The film takes a semi-documentary approach, using a vast ensemble cast to portray real-life figures and composite characters from both the British and German sides. Stars like Michael Caine, Laurence Olivier, Trevor Howard, and Christopher Plummer lend weight and authenticity to the narrative. Each actor contributes to the larger mosaic, showing how an entire nation pulled together to resist invasion. The heart of the film lies in the air battles. These sequences are remarkable, especially for their time. Using real aircraft rather than models or effects, the dogfights are filmed with a realism that captures the speed, danger, and strategy of aerial combat. The roar of Spitfires and Messerschmitts, the rat-a-tat of machine guns, and the silent tension of pilots waiting in dispersal huts all bring the story to life. But Battle of Britain is not just about planes, it's about people. It shows the strain on pilots flying multiple sorties a day, the pressure on radar operators and ground crews, and the emotional toll on those who watch from below. The film also gives space to the German perspective, offering insight into the strategic thinking of the Luftwaffe and their gradual realization that the British resistance would not be easily broken. The film was released during a time when Britain was reflecting on its post-war identity, and it struck a chord with audiences. It reminded them of a moment when the country stood alone and stood firm. Battle of Britain remains a stirring portrayal of national resolve, and a reminder that sometimes the most decisive victories are won not by numbers, but by spirit. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp, 1943. Few war films are as emotionally complex or visually striking as The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp. Released in 1943, during the height of World War II, and directed by Michael Powell and Emmerich Pressburger, the film is as much a meditation on aging, friendship, and principle as it is a reflection on military service. At its center is Clive Wynne Candy, a British officer whose long career spans the Boer War, World War I, and World War II. The story is told in flashback. It opens in wartime London, where younger soldiers disregard Candy's old-fashioned views and interrupt a training exercise he is supervising. From there, the film rewinds to his youth, showing his early idealism, his duels of honor, his friendships, and the changing face of warfare and morality through decades. Roger Livesey delivers a deeply human performance as Candy, portraying a man who is decent, loyal, and yet tragically out of step with modern conflict. Deborah Kerr, playing 3 different roles across different stages of Candy's life, adds emotional richness to the story. Anton Walbrook plays Theo, a German officer who begins as Candy's enemy and becomes his closest friend. Their relationship is one of the film's most moving elements, a portrait of cross-cultural understanding, tested by war and ideology. Colonel Blimp defied wartime propaganda expectations. Rather than offering a simple message of good versus evil, it presented a nuanced look at British military tradition. Candy's belief in fair play and chivalry is admirable, but the film gently questions whether such ideals can survive in a world changed by total war. It's a story about evolution, personal, political, and national. Despite initial controversy and limited release due to its sympathetic portrayal of a German character, the film has since been recognized as a masterpiece. Its use of color, narrative structure, and emotional intelligence set it apart from anything else of its time. The Life and Death of Colonel Blimp is a war film that refuses to be defined by conflict alone. It is about dignity, loss, and the quiet courage of a man trying to stay true to himself in a world that no longer fits him. Inglourious Basterds, 2009. Quentin Tarantino's. Inglourious Basterds is a bold reimagining of World War II history that walks a fine line between fiction and homage. Released in 2009, the film combines Tarantino's distinctive dialogue, stylized violence, and non-linear storytelling with a deep reverence for classic war cinema. While it diverges from historical fact, it remains grounded in the emotional truths of resistance, vengeance, and cultural memory. The film opens with a masterclass in suspense. A rural French farmer is interrogated by SS officer Hans Landa, played with chilling brilliance by Christoph Waltz. This scene, like many others in the film, is drawn out with precision, showcasing Tarantino's ability to create tension through conversation. Waltz's performance earned him an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actor and introduced one of the most memorable characters in modern cinema. At the center of the film are two converging storylines. One follows a team of Jewish American soldiers led by Lieutenant Aldo Rain, played by Brad Pitt. Their mission is simple: strike fear into the Nazi ranks by targeting German officers. The other follows Shosanna Dreyfus, a French Jewish cinema owner who plots her own act of vengeance after surviving a massacre. These storylines culminate in a fictional but cathartic climax at a movie premiere attended by the highest ranks of the Third Reich. In Tarantino's alternate history, cinema becomes the weapon that ends the war, literally and symbolically. Though exaggerated in style and conclusion, the film respects the genre's traditions. It draws influence from 1960s war films like The Dirty Dozen and The Guns of Navaron, yet subverts their tone with Tarantino's trademark wit and unpredictability. The dialogue, in multiple languages, is sharp and deliberate. The cinematography by Robert Richardson adds a polished, almost theatrical quality to the proceedings. Inglourious Basterds was both a critical and box office success, receiving 8 Academy Award nominations and cementing Tarantino's place as one of modern cinema's most original voices. While not a conventional war film, it uses the backdrop of World War II to explore ideas of revenge, performance, and rewriting history. It's a film that dares to imagine not what happened, but what could have, and in doing so, it creates its own kind of justice. The Longest Day, 1962. Among the most ambitious war films ever made, The Longest Day stands as a cinematic monument to D-Day. Released in 1962, this sprawling epic dramatizes the Allied landings on the beaches of Normandy on June 6, 1944. Told from multiple perspectives, American, British, French, and German, the film offers a comprehensive, near-documentary look at the most pivotal day of the Second World War. With a cast that includes John Wayne, Robert Mitchum, Henry Fonda, Richard Burton, and Sean Connery, the film spares no expense in delivering authenticity. Each actor plays a historical figure or a composite based on actual participants. The use of multiple languages and nationalities adds to the film's realism. German officers speak German, French resistance fighters speak French, and American paratroopers scramble in English as chaos unfolds around them. The film is structured almost hour by hour, detailing events leading up to and during the invasion. From the airborne drops in the early morning to the storming of Omaha and Utah beaches, each segment is treated with care and gravity. The logistics, strategy, and tension are portrayed with precision. Black and white cinematography adds a stark, journalistic tone, removing any glamour from the violence. Unlike many war movies that follow a small group of heroes, The Longest Day functions as a mosaic. It captures the scale of the invasion while still finding moments of personal drama. A lost general rallies troops. A priest offers comfort. A resistance fighter signals planes from a rooftop. These vignettes add humanity to the massive military machinery at work. The film was a major box office success and earned critical praise for its accuracy and scale. It received 2 Academy Awards and was nominated for several others. Today it remains a go-to depiction of the Normandy landings, often used in classrooms and documentaries. The Longest Day doesn't try to create suspense. It honors the facts. By showing the invasion from multiple sides, it becomes more than just a film. It becomes a record, a tribute, and a reminder of what it took to turn the tide of a global conflict. How the West Was Won, 1962. Though its title suggests a traditional Western, How the West Was Won is far more than shootouts and saloons. Released in 1962, it's a historical epic chronicling the expansion of the American frontier, spanning decades and generations. Featuring an ensemble cast including James Stewart, Henry Fonda, Debbie Reynolds, Gregory Peck, and John Wayne, the film tells a vast and emotional story of ambition, hardship, and transformation. The film is divided into 5 segments, each directed by a different filmmaker and narrated by Spencer Tracy. It begins with early settlers making their way westward and ends with the modern age of railroads and industry. Along the way, viewers witness river journeys, gold rushes, Civil War battles, and the building of the Transcontinental Railroad. These chapters are linked through the Prescott family, whose members endured love, loss, and legacy across the decades. John Wayne appears as General William Tecumseh Sherman during the Civil War portion, adding gravitas to the central conflict. Though brief, his role ties the story back to the larger themes of national unity and sacrifice. Each section of the film is distinct in tone, but united by the awe-inspiring landscape of the American West. Filmed in the Cinerama format, the movie was designed for curved theater screens, delivering a panoramic view that immerses the audience in sweeping mountain vistas and thunderous stampedes. The visual grandeur alone makes How the West Was Won a landmark film. But beneath the spectacle lies a reflection on how progress comes at a price: displacement, conflict, and enduring personal loss. The film was a box office hit and won 3 Academy Awards. It continues to be praised for its ambition and scope. While not a war film in the traditional sense, it includes war as one of the many forces shaping American identity. How the West Was Won is not just about conquering land, but about the people who did it, why they set out, what they found, and what they left behind. If you found this deep dive into the greatest non-Western war epics as riveting as we did, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more stories that bring history to life through the power of film. Got a favorite we missed? Let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts. History lives on when it's told well, and sometimes it takes a great film to help us remember.